Hello and welcome. My name is Michael Gill, and in this video we're going to discuss how mobility issues can drive the proper choice of a senior living community. One of the primary reasons someone moves to an assisted living is because of limited mobility. But there are varying degrees of limited mobility, and it is important to understand them all. This is true because the need for assistance with mobility can change over time, whether due to simple aging, the progression of a known disease or disability, or due to unexpected illness. My goal is always to anticipate identifiable problems in advance, where possible, and to help families plan for the foreseeable issues. In this way, we can hope to avoid a second unnecessary move. Effectively, there are 4 levels of mobility assistance. Number 1, walker or other assistive device. 2, one-person transfers. 3, two-person transfers. 4, bedbound residents. We will discuss each in turn. Someone who doesn't need help rising from a chair and can fully bear his own weight is someone who doesn't need transfer assistance. However, many seniors in this category will need a cane or a walker as they age, simply to increase stability and help prevent a fall. And many seniors should be using these assisted devices, but don't, either out of pride or denial. Walkers and rollators are common in all levels of senior living. For example, I know of some independent living communities where the architects have designed special rooms next to the entrance to their dining room as a garage for walkers and wheelchairs. The point is that at this level of limited mobility, it isn't necessarily a factor that excludes someone from any level of senior living. The next level of mobility issue is the one-person transfer. This is where things start to get interesting. A person who is considered a one-person transfer is someone who sometimes, not necessarily always, needs help getting up from a seated position such as the bed, couch, chair, or toilet. And this assistance can be safely provided by one caregiver. I say sometimes because we have to plan for the bad days, not just the good days. This could also be an individual who needs assistance transferring from a wheelchair to a bed, couch, chair, or toilet. If we don't plan cautiously enough, a senior may likely try and get up and do something unsafe. And while it may work sometimes, eventually it will catch up to them. For safety reasons, a one-person transfer is not appropriate for independent living, whether as a new resident or even if they've been a long-term resident. This is true because in independent living, care from the outside agency must be, quote, schedulable, unquote. An outside agency caregiver cannot be summoned for care on demand, such as when someone needs help to get to the toilet or needs unanticipated assistance moving about. When a person is a one-person transfer, they need to move to an assisted living community, period. The third level of mobility is the two-person transfer. Most often, a person requiring 2 caregivers to help transfer is mostly wheelchair bound. This is where things really start to get problematic. The major reason this is difficult for a community to handle is staffing. Having 2 caregivers off the floor and helping one resident at the same time can sometimes make for unsafe conditions for the other residents, especially if this is necessary several times a day. Even the staffing levels on the overnight shift have to be considered when choosing a community, because situations can certainly arise requiring 2 caregivers, and overnight shifts are pretty much always lighter staffed. Therefore, many communities decline to take 2-person transfers as new residents. And while most communities will allow a person to, quote, age in place, unquote, and will care for a long-term resident who has declined to this level, some communities simply aren't able to handle this level of care. This brings us to the need to talk about a less well-known assisted living regulation. In Texas, there are Type A and Type B assisted living licenses. A Type A assisted living community, all residents have to be healthy enough to self-evacuate within 13 minutes. In a Type B assisted living, the community has to have enough staff to make certain all residents can evacuate within 13 minutes. Functionally, this means a Type B assisted living can care for less healthy residents than a Type A community. This certainly applies to residents who are a 2-person transfer, and therefore Type A communities are often not an appropriate place for someone who is a 2-person transfer. You should know that all memory care communities are Type B licensed. The final and most severe level of challenge is the bed-bound resident. This is generally someone who cannot bear his own weight or assist with his transfer. Often this type of resident would require a mechanical lift device such as a Hoyer lift. This is sort of a personal crane with a sling that can be placed under a person who can then be safely lifted from place to place. This is again where regulations come into play and where we have the most problems placing and maintaining residents in assisted living or memory care. As a guiding principle, an assisted living or memory care community cannot accept someone who is bedbound as a new resident. Bedbound residents are supposed to be reserved for skilled nursing facilities instead. The exception to this rule is that residents can age in place, meaning that so long as they weren't bedbound when they first moved into the community, they can stay even when they have become bedbound. So, is a skilled nursing the only option for bedbound residents? No. First of all, the regulations are not completely specific, giving some communities leeway to interpret the regulations favorably. The problem can be solved by having enough staffing, training, and nurse supervision in an assisted living setting. This is quite rare, but such communities do exist. Second, independent living communities are also able to accept bedbound residents because they're not regulated. But the resident's family still needs to find an outside caregiving agency that can handle the resident's needs. This often means that this is an expensive solution. But I once helped a quadriplegic successfully move into an independent living community. This person was unable to be admitted to any assisted living community due to state regulations. Third, small 3-bed personal care homes can sometimes handle a bedbound resident, since they are unregulated as well. So, while there are sometimes ways to avoid having to go to a skilled nursing home with a bedbound senior, there's an important consideration for families, which is this: you should not pass the assisted living window. The window may shut when the loved one becomes bedbound, and your only option in that case may be to go to a skilled nursing home, which is less enjoyable environment and is usually more expensive than the alternatives of assisted living or memory care. The takeaway from the preceding discussion is that it is important to match a prospective resident with the right senior living community. Otherwise, your loved one may have to make a second disruptive move. Here are the 4 most important conclusions I would like you to take away from this discussion. Number 1, walkers and rollers are accepted in all levels of senior living. Number 2, one-person transfers are not appropriate for independent living. Number 3, 2-person transfers are not accepted at all assisted living communities, and when touring a community, you need to drill down with the admissions person on what levels of mobility they can accept, both upon move-in as well as down the road. Number 4, bedbound residents usually cannot be accepted by assisted living communities as a new resident. While there are exceptions, they are hard to find and may be expensive. My name is Michael Gill, and if you are interested in assisted living, independent living, or memory care in the Austin, Texas area, please call me at 512-630-7133. Thank you and good day.